overnight success. Is that something real? I was watching a show the other day about Jim Carrey, who, whether you like him or not, he's a pretty funny guy. And if you remember the 90s, and pretty much for the last 25 years, he's been one of the top comedic actors. And he tries to do the drama too. But he has that physical comedy thing. But what's ironic is that it took him 10 years to be discovered. Now, was he not funny from the beginning? Isn't comedy a performance? Wasn't he discovered? He worked at the Comedy Store, and if you have, I think it's on Showtime, they have a documentary about it. And it's very telling, especially if you're in sales. Because think about the performance characteristic versus the knowing characteristic. And the difference between comedy writers who write the jokes and comedians who deliver the jokes. And if you look at some of the best comedians started as writers. Conan wrote for Saturday Night Live. And a lot of people on Saturday Night Live had to write their stuff. And some of them got to perform it. Others didn't. Now, was there a transformation? Was it just polish? Was it just an enormous opportunity? Well, it's kind of all of that. And today, I've got a great guy on the show. I think you'll all kind of relate to him if you're early in your career. Even if you're not, I think you'll be inspired by the mindset, the determination. But there's been a consistent theme talking to these great salespeople in that watch the videos. When you listen to them, do they sound like the gregarious, life of the party, natural salesperson? Almost none. A few have. Out of the couple hundred I've interviewed, a couple have. And they've leveraged that. But I'd say the majority are kind of a little not that. And that's okay. I'm not that. Maybe you're not that. Too many of us have this limiting belief that we have to be this or that to be successful in sales. Now, limiting beliefs are what I describe as a cage or a prison cell that you build, that you put yourself into, and of which you hold the only key to let yourself out, and yet you spend your time in there explaining why you can't get out. And I would highly recommend you find a way of breaking through those. We all have them, and there is usually a little bit of truth to it. And we build that little bit of truth into the truth versus, it's a challenge. Some of us are a little young, a little old, a little this or that, whatever it is, live in the wrong place, don't have the right degree, yada, yada, yada. And part of that is true. You might live in the wrong place. You might be very young. You might be very old. You might be tall, short, whatever it is. If you believe that it is the obstacle and you can't get over it, then it becomes true for you. Let's get into the interview. Before we do, I want to make sure you're checking out the courses because like when I interview these reps, I never pitch the course to them, but it would solve a lot of the problems, a lot of the issues. And the transformation that people go through, because it's not just a course. There's community with office hours. There's coaching with the one-on-ones, both live and recorded. And the idea is you got this resource, this community to fall back on, to participate in, to help you become great at the two major parts of selling, getting meetings and conversations started. And I hate to use the word meeting because the word meeting gives the impression that that's your chance to pitch what you do. What we want is a conversation. That is how persuasion takes place. A commercial can happen in a meeting. A conversation is what changes. Enough of me. Let's get into the interview. I'll sum it up at the end. Hey, Andrew, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Brian, thanks for having me. So my name's Andrew Freem. I work for a company called Park Place Technologies. Been in technology sales since 2014, which was actually my senior year of college. I started out as an intern with Park Place. It was my first real sales job, and I've been in the role since. I'm sorry. Can we restart?
Yep, keep going.
Sorry, I didn't know if you were trying to tell me something.
No, I was just looking at your profile.
Oh, okay. So sorry.
The audio did change there. Did you do something?
I haven't done anything. No.
Okay. Just be conscious of not touching the table and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
Otherwise, the camera goes up and down and stuff.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
Ready?
Yep. Good.
Hey, Andrew, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Brian, thanks for having me. So my name's Andrew Freem. I work for a company called Park Place Technologies. I started working for them back in 2014, which was actually my senior year of college at the University of Cincinnati. Started as an intern in business development. I was calling for the new region within Park Place, which was the Denver Western region. It was kind of the Wild Wild West back then. But they offered me a gig, that Christmas, and they offered me the opportunity to move to Denver. So I've been a quota bearing sales rep since 2016.
Wow! But you studied finance in college?
I was a finance major. Yep. They had no idea that technology sales would be something that I would get into.
Yeah. What was it like the first year?
Pretty interesting. I mean, as a 21, 22-year-old kid, I was calling multi-billion-dollar corporations and talking to IT directors, VPs, managers, people that are way smarter than I am. And I was able to schedule a meeting with them. Yeah. It really is a very, very interesting, fun part of the job, I think.
And were these inbound or was it cold outbound?
It was cold calling.
Wow.
So I literally, when I started, I was literally calling out of the College of Business because I was the only place that had good enough internet to make cold calls. Yeah. And it was all outbound sales.
And how did that feel, or how did you?
I mean, I think starting at a young age, I think that helped with my confidence level quite a bit.
Helped?
Yeah. You know? Oh yeah.
You didn't know any better.
getting over that hump, that I was a finance major. I'm not a techie person, but being able to tell you what we do and, in a succinct type way, answer an objection or two. And then, really the goal of that was to schedule a 10 to 15 minute call. And then from there, see the sales process go. I mean, it tells me, that especially that early on, that I could call anyone.
And no fear, no apprehension, no sensitivity?
I still have a little bit of fear sometimes. I mean, it's, so I think sometimes we, at least I go speak for myself, get a little bit comfortable, in what you're doing, and rejection is always something that I have on my mind. But I think it's making that dial, getting over the hump, calling that cell phone, knowing that you might be invading somebody's quote unquote, personal space, but being able to diffuse that situation early on in the conversation is what you have to do, I think.
How long did it take to get comfortable with it, or have you become comfortable with it?
Comfortable with cold calling, or
that part. I mean, that's the hardest part.
I mean, so I think being comfortable with cold calling, it only took a month. I mean, it didn't take that long.
Yeah.
No, I think what I mean by getting comfortable though is there's a lot of different ways that you can reach out to somebody. There's, at least in our business, we have a lot of phone numbers, and some of those phone numbers, they go straight to voicemail, or that they're not going to be calling. So it's trying to figure out either how to get that cell phone number, to calling through the switchboard, or something to actually get a hold of that person.
Yeah. And did you have a particular pitch, approach, questions, style?
It kind of depends on who you're talking to. I think, even though they're harder to get a hold of, the best conversations are with the VPs, IT, director, senior director, type persons. I kind of think about, they might not answer your phone call a lot, but if they do, they know that they answered a cold call. They know how to do good business, and they're going to at least hear, your initial pitch. And I think, with them, I always try to let them know, that I want to respect their time, because I know that I am calling them out of the blue. And I think that kind of goes back, or kind of comes back to how I want to present myself as a salesperson. Whether that's you talk about a personal brand, a lot. And I don't want to, if an IT director or VP, genuinely accidentally picked up my phone call, but they had a meeting that they had to run to, I don't want to be that salesperson that, forces them to stay on the phone with me for another, 2 minutes and then be pissed off. And then I'll never, and then they might not want to have my phone call again. So yeah. I think there's a level of, what brand or what persona, do I want to leave, with the customers and prospects.
And what do you like about sales the most?
The hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a good example. So I've been, my sales territory is the San Francisco Bay Area. So very, very fun, cool companies, cool technology companies that you're calling into. There's a particular company that I've been calling into for 5 years. And most recently, the director kind of told me to eat rocks in November, December. Gave him a call just a couple weeks ago. Takes my call. We just had a meeting earlier this week and identified a potential opportunity. So I think having the patience to be there, either when the time is right, still being, respectfully persistent. That win is what makes it all worth it.
Yeah. And where's that come from? Was that something that you grew up with, or something that's you just discovered, or?
I think my dad has been in sales for a number of years. He's been in sales since the early 90s in the same industry, not technology, but I think I definitely, learned a lot from him, and how he's dealt, with his clients and different vendors that he's worked with.
Yeah. And how about the other parts of the sales process? How have you learned them, become better at them?
So, and I assume, regarding sales support and
well, you get that first conversation, which turns into some kind of demo, some kind of technical sale, business sale.
Yep. So, I mean, I think utilizing your resources is paramount to a successful sales cycle. I rarely go into a call, by myself. And I think I'm the first person to tell the prospect or customer that I am not the product expert or the SME. They know that I'm not, this technical person. So yes, knowing who to bring into a meeting, at certain points in time, whether it's a VP or whether it's, a pre-sales solution architect or somebody who is actually delivering, the service. But I think the only way that you really know that, at least in regards to Park Place and my company, yes, you're taught kind of how and where to reach out, but it's even more important for you to kind of figure it out for yourself. I mean, so what we do is we provide IT infrastructure support services. So we're working with, best of the best engineers, from Cisco or NetApp or Dell EMC, et cetera. So being able to call those people that work for Park Place that know what they do, the best, and hearing that from them, I think it makes me more confident in my messaging, to the customer, but then also, knowing that they're going to be available, or that they're willing to be available, to hop in, if they need, during the course of the sales cycle.
Because it's probably too hard to learn enough to hold that hour long.
Very much. Oh yeah. I mean, we're getting into nuts and bolts of code and hardware and log files, and that's not my expertise.
But I guess in that marketplace, the natural reaction they will have is to try and commoditize you, right?
Yes, that happens all the time.
Yeah, we've got somebody, we do it ourselves. Whatever.
It's one of the examples, and it's a company based. They had an operation here in Colorado, and one of our primary competitors, our major competitors, owned the contract with them, and we did get an opportunity to bid on the contract. And even though we identified 10 different areas that Park Place is better than this other organization, based on what the customer is telling us and the questions that we were asking, it still came down to price.
Really?
And it's the most frustrating, and it wasn't even that much. It's just the most frustrating thing.
And how do you handle that? Have you found an approach that works around that? Because,
I mean, I would love to hear from you, because at least
this is your interview, man.
I know. I appreciate that. I wish I had a silver bullet, but with this company, I think, at least with me and my experience, there might be some organizations out there that I felt that sales cycle was the best sales cycle that I can run. And it still didn't work. So I think, there's time, with everything in sales, there's times that it works. Well, there's things that doesn't work.
Certainly in the services space, it's always hard to beat an incumbent because there's switching costs.
Yes.
Even if it's just introductory meetings, even if it's just, passing the baton.
Yes.
That's a risk. It's a cost to them. So,
and that saved me before, actually, on some deals, where the customer said, yeah, they've got a 20%, vendor switching costs, and I knew that we were going to be okay.
Yeah. And so, is it competitiveness? Is it the hunt and the kill? Is it the being able to push through walls?
I think it's, it's the hunt to kill. There's definitely a pride aspect to it. I want to be the best. I want to be better than my peers. And I think, with that drives, me to outreach, to be the best account manager that I could be to my customers, and provide the best customer service, even for me.
And how do you recognize that? How do you view that? Is it income? Is it leaderboard? Is it?
So I think it definitely changed. That's an interesting question, because last year I actually had it was a down year for me. But when I look back on it, I'm actually more proud of last year and how I fought through, some of the hardships that were thrown my way, compared to some of the years that I've done, that I've been on the top leaderboard. So I think it definitely is a mixture of both. But I see some of the things that I did last year that I'm really, really proud of, even though the numbers don't necessarily line up with that.
Yeah. And how do you rationalize that? What was it? Things that you learned? Was it things how you handled it?
I think it was really what happened with me last year was my biggest customer is no longer a customer, and that was a really big hit. And but it was being able to expand within different business units, with the customers that we're currently working with. It was the focus that I had on new logo prospect customers, some more focus on those than I ever had before. And some of those advancements with those organizations makes me proud. In addition to, I'm still proud of the number that I put up at the end of the year. It was still, it was still better than most. But it just wasn't where I had been the last 3-4 years.
And how did you recover from something like that? Because that is something that people could really have affect them.
It did affect me for a little bit.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, can't lie. I mean, I was in a rut, for a little bit. But I think rather than becoming a desperate car salesman, type pushy sales guy, and letting the customer see that, oh, Andrew needs this. I needed to check myself and say, do you know what, Andrew, you've been doing this for 5-6 years. You've been successful. Continue to follow that formula. Don't fall outside of that formula. And I think that's what got me through the whole year. I saw, something today, I think that you were talking about, and setting appropriate goals, for yourself. And I did have to adjust my goals slightly, but that helped. That helped drive me throughout the year. And thankfully this, the start of this year has been a good start.
And do you think that was preventable, or was it outside of your control?
It was outside of my control. The customer strategy. So it was something that I knew that was coming for a couple of years. I was hoping that date would have been delayed, and that customer stayed true. much to my disappointment.
Yeah. And what do you see as kind of your superpower, your unique approach or skill or ability?
I mean, I think it's my personality. I'm myself. When I'm speaking to to customers, I'm a goofy guy, and I like for customers to see that. I mean, there's certainly times that I dial it back depending on what the customer is showing me, and their tone on on the phone or or in person. But my goal is to be myself, and for the customer to see that and trust me, because I'm a genuine person, and people can trust genuine people.
And how do you show that? Because like a lot of people put the sales voice on. They have the uptone.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Andrew, right?
Well, but I think that's my tone all the time.
No, I mean you're
always selling.
You're kind of even keeled.
Well, I appreciate that.
I haven't seen Goofy yet. When's that come out?
It's all the laughing.
Yeah. Well, laughing's contagious.
Fair.
So is a smile.
Yes.
Right.
But that's me, I guess. And I mean, how do I deliver that to the customer? I mean, I think I can be myself, be laughing, kind of be a little bit goofy, but in between all of that is confidence and knowledge, about the product that I am providing them, and making that if Mr. Customer is trying to accomplish XYZ, I'm coming back and providing solutions. So it isn't always a happy smiley face, and business is business, but I think what customers trust about me is that they see me following through, they see me providing good information.
Yeah.
And then at the back end, it's developing a relationship and having fun, because this job sucks if you're not having fun.
Right. I mean, because they either got to want to talk to you or enjoy talking to you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you got both, great, but you need at
Perfect.
least one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And the challenge in your space is the want to has to be backed up by you knowing enough about
Yeah.
their world and their problems to help
Mm-hmm.
them.
Yeah.
How do you stay current in that? Because that's a morass in your space.
So yeah, in terms of what that customer, I mean, that's where all the prospecting takes place.
Oh.
You know, you're for me, it's constantly prospecting and trying to gather information about a customer. The meeting that I had with the customer that earlier last week that I've been trying to get a meeting with for 5 years was a culmination of events, conversations, meetings with other people over the course of the last, 3-4 years. But
yeah.
But I think getting that information, making sure that it's relevant to them, and then presenting them that information is ultimately what got me the call, and identifying a potential opportunity.
Because a lot of people look at it as, just pound that one person, as opposed to, I just had an interview with a lady called it, breadcrumbs do turn into bread if you get enough of them.
Yeah.
Great analogy, right?
Yeah. It's I mean, there's multiple people. There's always somebody to call within the organization.
That's it. And
there's always somebody to try to connect with. Yeah.
Right. And Mr. Big Cheese or Mrs. Big Cheese, if you can put those breadcrumbs into a loaf of bread for them,
mm-hmm.
then you're not a rep. You're somebody of value within their network.
Exactly.
So, and what's kept you at the same company for such a long period of time? It's unusual.
I mean, it's a great company.
Yeah.
I have enjoyed working with them. The people that I've met and the people that they recruit are high quality. A lot of them are my friends, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think, aside, from the culture aspect, it has been an exciting ride with them. We started out when I joined, it was like $100 million company, and now we're upwards to 500, and we just acquired our biggest competitor. So, from a sales perspective, what better organization to be a part of that's growing, and gaining market share.
And how do you get better? Do you have a particular process or?
Harsh feedback from my VP and manager. No, I mean, we obviously we have sales. We do trainings, but I think I like to learn from people who are better than me.
Yeah.
Like I appreciate the guys who nominated me to be on this podcast, but I look up to other people. And to be able to pick their brains, or listen, to how they would deal with a certain situation, bounce ideas back and forth, just the collaboration in general. That's how I've gotten better, I think, as a salesperson over the years. And I don't consider myself to be the best salesperson. I definitely have a lot of room to grow. And
is it the love of winning or the hate of losing that motivates you most?
It's winning. Yeah, it's not losing. I think losing is a negative mentality in general, just even having that thought. And for me, it's always about having a positive mindset.
Yeah. And where do you want to take your career?
That's a good question. So I'm 27. People have asked me, going to management or, whatever. And I tried some of that in college and I just never saw myself as a good manager, to be honest. I think I'm a good leader. I think people, listen to me, but I do enjoy being an individual contributor. So I think like, at least like for me and where I want to go is I wanted to continue to diversify, my technology, sales skills. Really, I think that's where I'm at with my career.
And what do you think the most important lesson was coming up in sales? Was there a particular epiphany where somebody just either banged you on the head or the lights went on and your game went to the next level?
That's I think that's a good question. I mean, I think that I turned a corner. Yes. Okay, I'm thinking about it now. I think it was early on in the sales career, and knowing that just despite all the dials that I was making, all of the the metrics that I was hitting, I wasn't anything to be amount of until I actually closed the deal, and that at the end of the day is what we were graded on. And I think I think that was a good lesson early on, that metrics and everything, you might be hitting those, but they don't really mean anything until you close the deal. Right. And then close the deal and hit your quota and actually exceed those goals.
That's a good one. Cool. Hey, appreciate your time today. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
They could connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to. Andrew Freem. It's a different spelling. Pfriem as a Mary. Happy to follow me on Twitter, Freem Supreme. I appreciate your time, Brian.
Now that would be a pretty hard sell, wouldn't it? Selling managed services. I have a bunch of people in the course who have that challenge, but it's not impossible. The good thing is people always want to talk. They always want help. They want to talk about them and their problems, not you and your problems. And to learn that is not just hounding people. It is, you have to take a step back. Like when you shoot an arrow, you got to pull the arrow back so you're going in the wrong direction just for a minute, and then you kind of get the insight and the energy to move forward. And that's what Start the Conversation, Get the Meetings all about, is understanding what the other person wants to talk about. I was listening to this other podcast with about gimmicks, and I see this guy on LinkedIn who has gimmicks. The problem with gimmicks is they don't work very often, and they tend to fade very quickly, and they're tricks. You're trying to trick somebody into meeting with you or buy their time, but that doesn't work. You're not buying their interest or their curiosity. You're buying their time. We have to build that curiosity. We have to connect with them, and we have to build that into something. It's called selling. It's a forgotten thing. We think of it's just the pitch, but the pitch, unless somebody's in market, doesn't really connect anymore, because people are kind of got the shield up about the pitch, and they're kind of sick of it. Aren't you? I am. Hey, before you turn off, have you checked out our friends over at Scratchpad? Are you stuck using Salesforce? God, what a nightmare, huh? Now, if you want to make entering stuff into Salesforce easier and simpler and faster, check out Scratchpad. It's a great little startup. They just got their A round. Been working with them. Exciting product. Check it out. They've got a Chrome browser that'll help you enter the crap into Salesforce and save you hours a week and get your manager off your back. Isn't that like heaven? Also, are you telling a friend about the show? Come on, man, help a brother out. All the videos are kept up on YouTube. You can just search Brian Burns Sales on YouTube. If you see my stuff fly by on LinkedIn, give it a little like, a little comment, a little share, a little, hey, Brian, how's it going? Thanks for the podcast, buddy. Thanks for helping me. That's what I'm here to do, helping you sell more. Check everything out at B2B Revenue. If you like other podcasts by me, check out Sales Questions, Brutally Honest Answers, the Sales Leadership Show, and the B2B Revenue Leadership. We'll see you next time. No, I will do more if you give me a raise. Well, you don't get a raise unless you do more. And I always had this equation because I had this manager who once said his objective was get paid the most for doing the least. And I go, what a losing strategy. Because the other person is like, well, wait a second. I keep paying more and I'm getting less. So what do they want to do? They want to pay less. But then there's that one employee who like goes above and beyond, way outside their pay grade. And it may not happen, but a lot of times someone recognizes that and gives them a chance, and pays them more than they're worth, gives them an opportunity. Now, with prospects and customers, it definitely works that way. If you're waiting for them to buy before you do, this is what falls apart. And I've had this argument pretty much with most startups I went to, because what they would want to do is, well, why don't you get them to pay for the POC, the proof of concept, the technical sale? And I go, do you realize that's a whole sales process to get a very small amount of money? And what happens if our competitor doesn't require to get paid for it? And I made a lot of money early in my career by just ignoring that and doing the proof of concept kind of underneath the radar, you might say. And you know what? Got deal after deal. Now, you can't do it every time. You do it judiciously. You do it on the best and the most likely deals to close. And you don't do it to be busy. And you don't do it out of charity. You do it because it is the way to stay engaged with the client. It is helping. It is giving. And the devil is in the details, meaning you got to do it right in the right way. But sitting back and doing this transaction thing, I will do it once you do this. Now, don't confuse this with not asking for something. But we typically have to give in sales first, and more than we anticipate. And it tends to come back, not 100% of the time, which is another thing that people confuse in selling and with people in general. Absolutely nothing works 100% of the time with people. If you can get above 50%, you're going to be rich. And what happens is our psychology goes, well, wait a second, it didn't work. Maybe I did it wrong. Maybe you did. Or maybe you did it with the wrong person, or the wrong day, or the wrong way. In the complex sale, we have to find these first principles. The first principles of what really will get the deal moving. Now, in this interview, I hope you picked up the distinctions of if you're making these types of investments, people use the word qualify, but qualify kind of implies that they have to have a lot of skin in the game. But it can be very different. Okay, are they big enough to be able to afford what you're doing? Do they have the problem that you solve? Are they the type of people and company that will be willing to make this and change an investment? And these are judgment calls. These are not checklists. And I hear a lot of people talking about these checklist sales processes. Now, they're not bad. They're just incomplete. And if you go off of the checklist and it doesn't close, is the checklist wrong? Well, it's incomplete. It's not wrong. You checked everything. And people can argue about it. The point is you have to make these judgment calls. You have to give. You have to look for problems and solve them. And if you're looking for a guarantee, you're in the wrong job. Go become an accountant. Go do something that has a guarantee in it. We're at risk, so we have to be hyper-focused, hyper-diligent, and really think through our strategy. So, Brian, how do I learn all this? Well, you can listen to the platitudes and the comfort zone responses that I always just look at the comments I get on my posts. 80% of them are platitudes, meaning that it's just stimulus response. There's no thought that goes into it. Thought is where the power is. Thought is the understanding. In winning the complex sale, you learn exactly how to win these types of deals, how they work internally inside their company, and how you lead them through the process. And I talked to a lot of people. I just did a ton of sales kickoffs and talking to a lot of very experienced reps. And the challenge you have as a rep is you're too close to it. You're in the game. You can't see how the game's being played because you're so emotionally focused and involved in it. So am I. And that you need to take a step back. Look at the whole terrain. Where are you? Who are the players? What's the timeline look like? Why would they do it? Where are the traps? How do I avoid them? How do I guide them through this process? And really analyze it, because if you win, there's a lot of gold at the end of that rainbow. And if you lose, it's an enormous waste of time. Hopefully you'll learn from it. You pay the tuition. Did you get the lesson? Winning the complex sale gives it to you. And people go, well, what's the ROI on it? Well, ask yourself, how many of those deals closed? Look at last year's forecast. Save those old forecasts. They are lessons. They are pure gold. And look at them. Most people, it's like 25 to 40% close. So that means 75 to 60% of your time is wasted. Now take your on-target earnings, not the number that the company gives you on the comp plan, the number you want to make. Say you want to make 500K and you're only closing half of them. You're making 250, okay? Sounds good, doesn't it? That's a good amount of money, but you could have made 500. And you could have had more fun. And you didn't waste your time. And you didn't get those terrible disappointments when you didn't close the deal. Sound good? Also, if you're in, start the conversation, get the meeting, make sure you're checking out the one-on-ones. There's pure gold there when you watch people go through, because first step is denial, especially with reps. Entrepreneurs pick this up immediately because there's no bad habits. Experienced reps, and the most experienced, fight it the most. Because it's not because they're difficult. It's because they're so ingrained in the pitch, in the get the meeting, get that 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour demo, that they forget that you need to build. You got to start where they are, not where you are, and make them come to you. They're not going to come to you. If they were going to come to you, they already would have, or they will someday. Our job is to start where they are and build up. And if you listen to the progression, these are all real reps going through really difficult situations. There's nobody in the course selling something that's easy, nor are they at a big brand name where it's just a walk in the door or an upsell. These are getting meetings with very difficult competitive roles and people kind of above, trying to really sell complex stuff, new stuff. And you get to hear that pattern over and over again. And then when you get a breakthrough and you get the smile on their face and they get their first deal or their first meeting with an executive they only dreamed of getting before, and they stop wasting their time going from one meeting a week to 10 or 20 and just have it in a system, boom, 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 becomes unconsciously competent at it after a while. Because the hard part is the change. The hard part is not doing it. The hard part is the change in mindset. But it has to take place. Just like what we heard today in this interview. The giving, the helping, that is counterintuitive. And it's not helping just for helping's sake. It's helping that builds that trust, that connection with that other person, that reciprocation that they feel unconsciously compelled to do. So make sure you're checking out the courses at b2brevenue.com. Everybody who shares my content on LinkedIn, likes it, comments on it, give it a little thumbs up. Oh, you're friends for life. Also, check out the other podcasts, Sales Questions, Brutally Honest Answers, the Sales Leadership Show, B2B, Revenue Leadership. This is nothing but pure gold out there. I'm here working for you 24/7. We'll see you next time.